I've got some really good news for Jordan Travis if and when he makes it in the NFL. In the NFL, you make the playoffs based on your win-loss record and only your win-loss record. Welcome everybody to JJ9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jabber Gary, and I represent the 904 from 602, and today we are talking about this team behind me right here, the Las Vegas Raiders, and what they might do at the 2024 NFL Draft. It's weird because every team in the AFC West is thinking about their quarterback situation to various degrees. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs, they have Patrick Mahomes, but Blaine Gabbert, very disappointing last season as the backup, hasn't been re-signed. They need a number 2 quarterback pretty badly. The Broncos, that's pretty obvious. The Broncos have a mess of a quarterback situation. The Chargers can't possibly be going in with Easton Stick as the backup. That experiment has very clearly failed, no matter how many years they give it, how hard they try. The Raiders, on paper, they are the least of the bunch, fewest question marks from an overall roster standpoint going into the draft from the quarterback position. Now, obviously, not saying they have the best quarterback situation or anything like that, but it seems on paper for the average NFL fan, like in terms of teams that need to acquire at least one quarterback in the next month in some capacity, that of the teams in the AFC West, they're the lowest on the list of the division because they have Gardner Minshew, who they signed a free agency from the Indianapolis Colts for that 2-year contract, and they have Aiden O'Connell, their 4th-round pick from last year, 3 years of control still for him on that rookie contract. But they are looking at quarterbacks potentially as a number 3 option or maybe a guy to supplant O'Connell at some point, and they are giving a top 30 visit to Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis. This according to a report from Tristan Kuhn, who says Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis has a top 30 visit scheduled with the Raiders. Now, before I talk about Jordan Travis, his fit with the Raiders, why this could make sense, and why they might be interested, I just want to clarify for those who don't know what a top 30 visit is. It does not mean that the Raiders have him as one of the top 30 players on the board. It does not mean they view him as a first-round pick. That is not what top 30 visit means. Basically, a top 30 visit is any visit with a team and an individual, a private meeting, a one-on-one meeting between the team and the individual, and it doesn't count if the player is at a local school. So if the Raiders want to bring someone to their facility from UNLV, it wouldn't count. But if they want to bring someone from a school like Florida State, very far away, they can do that. Think of this as a wedding where you can only send out 30 invitations, but family doesn't count. So besides family, you get to send out 30 invitations. It does not mean the Raiders view him as a top 30 player. It's just a moniker used for one of the 30 official visits. Top 30 visits, not really a great name. Think of it as one of the official 30 visits that a team is allowed to give. Jordan Travis, quarterback for Florida State last season. Jordan Travis, quarterback for Florida State in 2023, 20 touchdowns, 2 picks, 2023 ACC Offensive Player of the Year. He was the ACC Player of the Year as well. He was 5th in the Heisman voting, had FSU rolling, and then he got injured in that game against North Alabama, which derailed their season as they missed the playoff. A lot of controversy about that, whether they should have been snubbed, even though they went undefeated. Last 2 seasons at FSU, though, Travis has been nothing short of sensational. 44 touchdowns, 7 picks. He led the ACC in passer rating in each of the last 2 seasons. So this raises a question. If the Raiders have Aiden O'Connell and they have Gardner Minshew, why are they looking at Jordan Travis? Why would you waste a top 30 visit on a quarterback? Why would you do that? Well, there's a few reasons why. Number one, there might be some small connection that influences this to some extent. The assistant coach of the Raiders, backing up Antonio Pierce, is Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis was at Arizona State in 2019, helping out with the defense. ASU played Florida State in the Sun Bowl that season, and Lewis had to get ready for Travis, and Travis had 58 rushing yards, had to be impressed with his mobility and the way he played. Also, who else was helping out the defense? None other than Antonio Pierce, who was the defensive coordinator of the Sun Devils in 2019. So they saw him years ago, but they had to walk away pretty impressed, and that might influence this decision to some extent why they're interested in Jordan Travis. Now, here's the thing with the Raiders. We don't have anything to go off of with Antonio Pierce and how he constructs his roster. You know me, I'm big on precedent. I'm big on seeing, okay, how many guys fit on the roster? Do teams keep 2 quarterbacks? Do teams keep 3? It's why with Mike Tomlin, I always talk about how the Steelers keep 3 quarterbacks every single year. We have nothing to go off of with Antonio Pierce. This is his first year. Sample size is 0. However, we do have some data to go off of because the general manager of the Raiders is Tom Telesco, the former GM of the Chargers in San Diego, and then when they made the move to Los Angeles. He spent the last decade with the Chargers. I don't know how he got that long of a leash, but we know what Telesco likes to do to some extent. 5 in the last 6 seasons, Tom Telesco, as the GM, has kept 3 quarterbacks on the initial 53-man roster. Now, last year, he kept Justin Herbert and Easton Stick, only kept 2. Probably would have kept 3, though, if Matt Duggan didn't look disappointing in camp and the preseason last year. They drafted him out of TCU, the guy who was phenomenal with the Horned Frogs, made it to the national championship before they got steamrolled by Georgia. They put him on the practice squad. He was disappointing in camp and in preseason, but if he played well, probably would have made the 53. Having said that, 2022, Justin Herbert, Chase Daniel, and Easton Stick, they kept 3 quarterbacks. Same thing in 2021. 2020, they kept 3, except not Chase Daniel. It was Tyrod Taylor. 2019, Phillip Rivers, Tyrod Taylor, and Easton Stick. And 2018, Phillip Rivers, Geno Smith, and Cardale Jones. So 5 of the last 6 seasons, Tom Telesco, as the GM of the Chargers, kept 3 quarterbacks on the 53. And if you look at the Raiders roster right now, they have 3 quarterbacks on the roster. Gardner Minshew is making the team, obviously. They gave him that 2-year deal. He's a very quality quarterback in terms of top 25, top 30 option in football. Almost guided the Colts to the playoffs last season. I love the guy. Ian O'Connell, 4th-round pick from Purdue. 3 years of control, pretty cheap, threw 12 touchdowns last season. No reason not to keep him around. But other than him and Minshew, you don't have anyone. You have Anthony Brown, but Brown has done nothing in the NFL. He was disappointing in his time with Baltimore. He signed a reserve futures contract with the Raiders. He's likely not making the team. He'll make it onto the 90-man roster, but he's not making the team. So if the Raiders like keeping 3 quarterbacks, or rather Tom Telesco likes keeping 3 quarterbacks, it makes complete sense as to why they would look at a guy in the NFL draft potentially on day 3. Jordan Travis projected to go somewhere around round 5 or 6, maybe round 4. The Raiders have 7 draft picks, 1 in each round, so they can absolutely do that. And Travis should be ready to go in May or June after that leg injury he suffered against North Alabama. There is no need to rush him whatsoever. It's a good situation for him to be in. You can stash him as QB3 since you have Minshew and Ian O'Connell as it is. And again, we have nothing to go off of with Antonio Pierce and how he constructs the roster. But if the Raiders want a 3rd quarterback, you're not going to sign a veteran in free agency. That will cost a lot of money, relatively speaking, if you want a quality veteran. And I'm not sure who would take that job necessarily because they're going to be buried on the depth chart. They're going to be QB3 behind Minshew and AOC. So you're not going to get anyone that good. It wouldn't really be worth it. So you might as well draft a guy, let him develop. Jordan Travis makes a lot of sense in that regard. And I can see why the Raiders might be interested in him if Tom Telesco keeps up his strategy and wants to keep 3 quarterbacks on this team. The Florida State man could still go to any other team. The New York Jets are also interested in him. Again, top 30 visit doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to draft the guy. Teams have not met with players before they drafted them. Teams have had top 30 visits with guys before, and they ended up not even taking the guy in the draft, no matter what round it was, and not even signing them non-draft for free agency. Top 30 visits is just another way for teams to do their due diligence, and the Raiders are doing that with Jordan Travis, which gives you an idea that, at the very least, they are looking at the possibility of bringing on a 3rd quarterback via the NFL draft in 2024, about a month away. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think Jordan Travis will get drafted by the Raiders? Do you think it makes sense for the Raiders to draft a quarterback? Do you think the Raiders will draft a quarterback? And if so, who do you think they're going to draft? And if you think they're going to draft someone, what round do you think it's going to go in? What were your thoughts on Jordan Travis at Florida State? His time there, do you think Florida State should have made the playoff? Where do you think Jordan Travis winds up? Is he NFL quality? A lot of things to discuss. Let me know all of them in the comments down below. That's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. Helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, JaguarGator9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is JaguarGator9 signing off. And as always, go Jags.